The hype around the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro is getting more interesting every day, and this new leak might explain why. According to the latest information, Qualcomm may be borrowing an idea from Samsung's upcoming Exynos 2600 processor, and honestly, this is something nobody expected a few months ago. Now, if you've been following smartphone chips for a while, you probably know that Qualcomm makes some of the fastest mobile processors in the world. The problem is that speed usually comes with heat. Sometimes these chips get very hot when gaming, recording videos, or doing heavy tasks for a long time. Samsung seems to have found a clever way to deal with that problem with the Exynos 2600. Samsung's new technology is called Heat Path Block, or HPB for short. Don't worry about the fancy name. The idea is actually very simple. Think of the processor like a small engine. When the engine works hard, it gets hot. The heat path block acts like a special metal path that quickly moves heat away from the processor before temperatures become a problem. Samsung reportedly uses a copper-based heatsink that stays in direct contact with the processor. Because copper is very good at moving heat, it helps keep temperatures under control. And this is where things get interesting. A well-known tipster claims Qualcomm has added a similar idea to the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro. Yes, Qualcomm appears to be copying Samsung's thermal design. But here's the catch. The leak says Qualcomm's version is not working as well as Samsung's version. In other words, Qualcomm saw Samsung's idea, decided it was good enough to use, but may not have implemented it perfectly. Now remember, this is still a leak, so we should take it with a grain of salt. But if it's true, it tells us something very important. Even Qualcomm knows heat is becoming a serious problem. Modern smartphone chips are getting so powerful that cooling is becoming just as important as performance. It's no longer enough to simply make a processor faster. You also need to make sure it can stay cool while delivering that performance. Otherwise, the phone will start slowing itself down to avoid overheating, and nobody wants that. Imagine buying a flagship phone, launching your favorite game, and getting amazing performance for 5 minutes, only for the phone to get hot and lose speed shortly after. That's exactly the problem manufacturers are trying to solve. What's even more interesting is Samsung isn't stopping with the Exynos 2600. Reports suggest the next generation Exynos 2700 could introduce an even more advanced cooling system called side-by-side, or SBS. Again, let's keep this simple. Normally, different parts of a smartphone chip are stacked together. Samsung's new design reportedly places the application processor and memory side by side. Instead, then Samsung places a large copper heat path block on top so it can cool both components at the same time. The goal is simple. Move heat away faster, keep temperatures lower, maintain performance for longer periods. If Samsung pulls this off successfully, it could become one of the biggest improvements in smartphone chip design in years. Now, let's talk about another shocking part of this leak, the price. Reports suggest the standard Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro could cost over $300 per chip. Let that sink in for a second. That's just the processor, not the phone, not the display, not the cameras, just the chip itself. And if that estimate turns out to be accurate, smartphone manufacturers are going to have some difficult decisions to make, because not every company can afford to put such an expensive processor inside all of their phones. This means we may see the full Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro only inside ultra-premium devices. Phones like the Galaxy S27 Ultra could get the complete version. Meanwhile, other flagship phones may use the regular Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 or a slightly lower binned version. Basically, companies may reserve the best chip for the most expensive phones, and honestly, that wouldn't be surprising. We've already seen smartphone prices continue rising year after year. A more expensive processor could push flagship prices even higher. So right now we have three big questions. First, can Qualcomm finally solve their heat problems? Second, is Samsung's HPB technology really that good? And third, will these next-generation processors become too expensive for most flagship phones? Those are the questions everyone is waiting to see answered. One thing is clear though, the battle between Qualcomm and Samsung is becoming much more interesting. For years, Qualcomm was known mainly for performance. Samsung was often trying to catch up, but now Samsung might actually be leading in one area that matters more than ever: cooling. And if Qualcomm is really borrowing ideas from Samsung, that says a lot about how important Samsung's technology could be. We'll have to wait for official announcements and real-world tests to know the full story, but for now, this leak has definitely made the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro one of the most exciting smartphone chips to watch.